This is All India Radio. In the program Insights, now we bring you a discussion on Clean Cities, Clean India. The participants are Akshay Raut, former Director General, Swachh Bharat Mission, and Urmi Goswami, journalist.
We are in the middle of the Swachhata fortnight or Swachhata Pakhwara, where the focus is, of course, on cleanliness. While this is not just a fortnight issue, this is a time to focus more, to think about it and take things forward and understand better what it means to have clean cities and what more needs to be done. Because obviously the fight for cleanliness has begun. Soon after, Prime Minister Narendra Modi made the announcement on August 15, 2014. But the question is, what needs to happen now? This is not a battle that's won. This is a process. Mr. Rawat, thank you for joining us. Where do you think we are in our effort to have clean cities? Where are we right now?
You have put the problem straight on the table. The clean cities is a task that is to be achieved by Swachh Bharat mission yet. We had, as you just now mentioned, under the Prime Minister's call and very active and direct leadership of Mr. Modi, that's commenced in 2014 with a call from the ramparts of the Red Fort on 15th of August, then converted to a program called Swachh Bharat Mission on October 2, and the 8th anniversary just a week away from now. He gave a call that we must have a clean India. And this was surprising for many because a Prime Minister and who is giving his first address from the Red Fort on Independence Day, a lot of people, the so-called elite, would have thought that he will speak on nuclear issues, international matters, the situation facing the economy of the country, the global issues, and so on and so forth. But he spoke about sanitation. Not only that, he spoke about toilets. He spoke about the problems faced by our mothers and sisters who didn't have toilets at home. That was truly surprising on that day. But the Prime Minister was damn serious. And the rest of the journey has proved why he said so. And Swachh Bharat Mission has gone down across the world as one of the most iconic programs. It is not only the largest sanitation program anywhere in the world, anytime, but it has also become the largest behavior change program. Just to give a sense, I am going back by 8 years, which you just mentioned the year and the date. We had 600 million open defecators that time, 60 crores. And if the Sustainable Development Goal 6.2 that was to be achieved by the world by 2030, if it had any singular hurdle, then it was India. Because we had 600 million open defecators. But then the journey began. And we are in the second phase of this journey. The first phase was completed in 2019 in a way when 6.5 lakh villages of the country and later on 5,000 towns and cities have declared themselves open defecation free. That was huge. But the country, the government and the leadership and the Swachh Bharat Mission are not resting on this laurel. You just now very correctly mentioned, we are in the second phase. And in the second phase, one of the biggest targets, the goals for the next 5 years is to achieve garbage-free cities by 2026. We had 12 crore toilets almost built across the country. But now, the face of many towns and cities, small or big in India, are a lot of small, big mounds of garbage. Some places, it is like huge, they call it, the dump sites, which have been there as almost legacy dump sites. And they are creating horror scenes all around in terms of sanitation challenges, disease, infection, and affecting overall environment. These have to be dismantled. And any waste that is being generated have to be processed. So this is the challenge that is being faced in this phase 2 of Swachh Bharat Mission and Swachh Bharat Mission Urban 2.0, which was launched by the Prime Minister on October 1, 2021, just about a year back. That has a clear goal of achieving what you said as clean cities, but I would say in technical terms or in programmatic terms, garbage-free cities.
Right.
All the municipality waste that is being created. Do you know what is the size of waste that Indian cities and towns create? 1.5 lakh tons of solid waste each day. And then there is the historic waste. All these have to be dismantled. We must have clean cities.
Mr. Rawat, it's very interesting that you have laid out the problem, and it's a huge problem. It's true. And I want to draw your attention to something else the Prime Minister said last week, in his meeting with the mayors and at the Environment Ministers meet. And two things he said. One is, of course, focusing on smaller cities and talking about decentralized urbanization, because one of the reasons why we have, the issue of cleanliness, even in a more narrower term, sanitation becomes so big in cities is because of overburdening on services. And the other thing he mentioned in the Environment Ministers meet was not to look at these issues in silos. So people have to come together and work. And if I was wondering if you could tell our listeners a bit about what kind of an integrated approach you're talking about in terms of garbage-free cities, reducing waste, reusing waste, creating wealth from waste. What kind of an integrated approach are we talking about?
The integrated approach, and there is no substitute to that. As you and I and all our listeners know, urbanization in India is irreversible. There will be more and more urban population, urban societies. There will be cities and towns, and they will be the center of our economic progress. So we should not look at it with any amount of distaste. We should not look at our villages with disproportionate amount of nostalgia. That's the way of life. So we have to plan our urban centers well. And that's the Prime Minister's focus in a lot of things that he says of late, and you mentioned one or two. And in the urban rejuvenation that is being attempted now for a few years, sanitation is one of the core issues. We have the smart city issues, we have the rapid transit issues, we have also the digitalization of urban centers. A lot of things are happening, all good, and all should be integrated so that we have a wholesome progress of our towns and cities. And now we are taking up presidency of G20. And G20 the presidency is a time to showcase our urban centers, because a lot of the meetings and interactions will be around the urban centers. So the urban rejuvenation will have to have this, if you allow me to call it, the face of urban rejuvenation will be sanitation or the clean city. And as you just now mentioned, environment, it is pretty much linked with environment. And at COP26 and later on, the Prime Minister has given a call for LIFE, L-I-F-E, lifestyle for the environment. That means individuals must behave in a manner for judicious utilization of all resources around, so that the world and the environment and the climate is more sustainable. And to that, the sanitation and Swachh Bharat mission and what's going on in urban sanitation are extremely related, because the urban sanitation, even the whole of urban progress or the urban economy is now based on 3 R's: reduce, reuse and recycle. And the core responsibility of the second phase of Swachh Bharat mission is solid and liquid waste management by municipalities, say about 5,000 of them. So in that, we have to apply the principle of 3 R's, which are also connected to overall environment sustainability. And then also, even if you have heard about it, I would like to mention, even a toy-cathon, like reimagine our toy industries, with just a competition of the national scale started up just today. That means the toy production will also be based on 3 R's. That means our waste should not only be converted to energy, to compost, and to various types of construction of road, cement industry, etc., etc., but also even something which is interesting for children to play. And lot of children in the country are deprived of a piece of toy, unlike the middle class children. So there is a recycling of waste, and the Prime Minister used the word, let us team up for toys. That means the most of the toys out of the waste of which goes to the ocean bed or to the landfills or to the incinerators. We should have toys made out of waste, so that there is an overall waste management. And as you said, the goal is to have garbage-free cities in some time in 5 years, and that should be possible. I'll just make a mention, single-use plastic has been banned from July. It's not going to be easy, because we need to have substitution. And that ban of plastic is very much linked to waste management.
Yes.
That is great. But till the time we have behavior changed, we have substitutions available. It is not going to be easy. And we have also the electronic waste. And we have the waste that comes from even medical centers. They are very different, and some of them are pretty toxic.
Yes.
And how these are all plowed back either to be recycled into some value-added product or should be eliminated in a manner that they don't really pollute our environment. These are the challenges in the coming days that urban sanitation, overall urban planning will face.
Of course, there's also the possibility of making energy from waste. As you mentioned, when you were talking, what comes across is that this is not, in a sense now, the Swachh Bharat mission has moved into its more complex phase, where it's not just about addressing issue of toilets, but now it's about much broader. It's about how we look at things, how we use things, how we dispose of things, and how as as cities, as urban centers, as collectives, the authorities also deal with waste. I just wanted to mention one more thing to you and wonder how you are thinking of this can be linked with the efforts of garbage-free city. The simple moniker, but it tells a lot more than just about garbage. And the Prime Minister, in his address to the mayors, mentioned about standardization in urban planning. So no more ad hoc and casual planning, which is what has been the bane of most of our cities. How do you see this happening? Does this require structural changes, or is it possible within the systems that we have right now?
The new emphasis is on developing the capacity of the urban local bodies. We have urban local bodies which are about 5,000 in number, and they have the responsibility. For example, you ban plastic waste. SUP particularly. But the burden of implementation of that, all in terms of we may have central agencies like Pollution Control Board, we may have scientific laboratories which roll out a lot of technology, we may have also Swachh Bharat mission in issuing a lot of policy instructions, but finally the responsibility of executing these on the field, the municipality areas, is not even on the state. It is directly on the urban local bodies. You know that municipalities in the urban setup and the panchayats on the rural setup have responsibility, and they have been devolved certain resources for that. So they must have the capacity.
Capacity building at these levels. It would be amiss if we didn't touch on another issue which doesn't relate to garbage but definitely relates to clean cities, and that is clean air. All of it comes together. Do you think that it is possible for Swachh Bharat mission to now work with sort of bodies to address the question of air, because even that is part of what makes a city less clean, isn't it?
You know, all these things that we talked about, they have links with the air as well. The air, land and water. All three are covered in Swachh Bharat mission to make them clean. And that's the philosophy of the leadership as well.
One point before we wind up, I must make a mention. Nothing of that we have spoken in the last about 10-15 minutes is possible without the involvement of the community and people. Just about a week back, we had India's Swachhata League, on which the day about 5 lakh youngsters came out to clean the beaches, the mountains, and also the tourist places. So, and we have seen it in various phases in Swachh Bharat mission. It is the people's participation effort, the Shramdan, and the complete passionate participation of the people of India, youth and all categories of people. That alone can make all the idea of clean city possible, like it made the idea of ODF, Open Defecation Free India, possible.
Mr. Raut, thank you for taking us through what is actually a very complex mission, in the sense that cleaning cities is not just about having more toilets or cleaning the garbage. It's about changing the way we look at our cities, the way we look at the things that we use in our cities and in our daily lives. It will require all of us as citizens, as residents, to work together with all the various departments of government and authorities to come together towards the mission of clean cities. Thank you so much once again for joining us.
Thank you very much.
You were listening to a discussion on clean cities, clean India. The participants were Akshay Raut, former Director General, Swachh Bharat Mission, and Urmi Goswami, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on a mobile app, News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel, News on AIR Official. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsdtalks@gmail.com.